Lake City, the administrative center of Hinsdale County, Colorado. No more than 500 people live in the tiny town. Surrounded by the San Juan Mountains, this quiet corner attracts tourists with the opportunity to escape the hustle and bustle of the metropolis. Entertainment includes fishing, hunting, and secluded walks in the fresh air. Several restaurants are open for visitors, including the Packer Saloon, where you can try the signature dish, Cannibal Salad. The piquancy of this menu item is added by the fact that behind the terrifying name lies a real story. At the end of the 19th century, Lake City gained a bad reputation due to a local resident, Alfred Packer, who was accused of murder and cannibalism. Because of the nature of the case, the inconsistencies during the investigation, and the final verdict, it became a sensation, capturing the attention of the entire country. On April 16, 1874, a frozen and very hungry man came to the administration of the Los Pinos Reservation in Colorado. It was Alfred Packer. Alfred Packer introduced himself as a guide through the wilderness and reported that a couple of months ago he was hired by a group of 21 prospectors heading to Breckenridge, where gold had recently been found. Packer was supposed to lead them through the San Juan Mountains, but during the journey, the team split up. This happened at the end of January. By that time, the detachment led by Packer had lost its way due to a snowstorm. There were almost no strength or provisions left. But fortunately, the prospectors stumbled upon the camp of Chief Ouray of the Ute Indian tribe. Chief Ouray provided them with food and shelter. He suggested they stay in the camp and postpone the expedition until spring, as such a trek in winter was deadly dangerous. Not even one person from his tribe would dare to go into the mountains in such weather. Despite these warnings, the prospectors decided to continue their journey. Part of the detachment decided to go around the mountains, but Packer was in favor of taking the shorter route. 5 more daredevils followed Alfred Packer. They set off in search of the gold deposit directly through the Rocky Mountains. However, after 66 days, only one guide returned from this expedition. When asked where the others were, Packer replied that he had developed snow blindness on the way, that is, a corneal burn from the sun's rays reflected off the snow. The other prospectors allegedly abandoned their guide and went further, and he survived alone. He ate roots, pine bark, and occasionally caught rabbits. But not everyone believed this story. Despite the fact that Packer had been in the complete wilderness for just over 2 months, he did not look as battered and emaciated as other travelers whom the agency's employees met in the mountains. Moreover, Packer was found with the personal belongings and weapons of his companions. Soon, members of another group of prospectors who had gone around the mountains reached the reservation administration. They unanimously claimed that their missing comrades would never have abandoned a person in distress. But the guide had been suspicious from the very beginning due to his strange behavior. Moreover, immediately after his return, he bought a new horse, an expensive saddle, and spent more than $100 in the local saloon, even though he had previously claimed to be completely out of money. Alfred Packer was summoned for interrogation. When he was sitting in the sheriff's office, someone unexpectedly knocked on the door. On the threshold stood Indians from the Ute tribe. They reported that they had discovered human remains in the mountains. Packer made a heartfelt confession. Allegedly, the prospectors began to go mad from hunger and cold and started killing each other and eating the flesh of the killed. In the end, he was left alone with Shannon Wilson Bell, and he was the only person he allegedly had to kill in self-defense. After such a confession, Alfred Packer was taken into custody, but after a few months, he escaped. And soon the bodies of all his companions were found in the mountains, all in one place. The police discovered that the people had been brutally killed and partially eaten. And this contradicted Packer's testimony, since, according to him, only Shannon Wilson Bell should have been in that ravine. According to the investigation, Alfred Packer was a fraud posing as a guide, and, at best, doomed the group due to complete incompetence, and at worst, did it intentionally. Local newspapers quickly picked up the sensational story. Soon, almost all residents of Colorado were convinced. It was the guide who was guilty of the death of the 5 prospectors. The main thing remained to be found out: where Packer himself was hiding. 9 years later, Packer was found living under an assumed name in Wyoming. Arrested again, he gave testimony. However, this time the story was as follows. He left the camp, and when he returned, he saw that Bell had gone mad and killed all his friends, the other prospectors. Then he attacked him directly, and he had to defend himself. And to survive in such conditions, he had to partially eat the bodies of the prospectors. On April 6, 1883, the trial of Alfred Packer began in Lake City. The prosecution insisted the guide deliberately chose a dangerous route through the mountains to lead the prospectors into the wilderness, kill them, rob them, and eat them. Packer denied everything. However, after 7 days of testimony and expert examinations, he was found guilty of the premeditated murder of at least one person and sentenced to death by hanging, which was to take place on May 19, 1883. The authorities of Lake City were absolutely sure that Alfred Packer would be hanged. Posters inviting people to the execution were hung all over the city. One of them still adorns the wall of the Hinsdale County Courthouse. But the Colorado cannibal miraculously avoided death at the last moment. He was saved by a loophole in the law. His lawyers discovered that the murder laws in effect in 1874 had been repealed. The lawyers stated that the government could not sentence a person to death for a crime committed before Colorado officially became a state rather than a territory. In October 1885, the death sentence was also overturned by the Colorado Supreme Court. Alfred Packer's death sentence was replaced with 40 years of imprisonment, but he spent only 18 years behind bars. In 1901, the Colorado cannibal was released from prison thanks to the support of local journalists, who launched an active campaign for his early release. It is known that after his release, Alfred Packer worked as a guard at the very newspaper whose journalists fought for his release. His later years were quiet, although the man was never able to shake off his reputation as a cannibal. Packer died at the age of 65 after a stroke. Rumors circulated that before his death, he became a vegetarian and maintained until his last days that he was not guilty of murder. Alfred Packer was buried in the city of Littleton, Colorado. The local authorities concreted over his grave to protect it from vandals. However, unknown individuals occasionally leave animal bones on the headstone. The memory of the Colorado cannibal in these parts is still alive today. At the ravine where the remains of the murdered prospectors were found, travelers are greeted by a sign with the chilling inscription, "The Slaughterhouse of Alfred Packer." If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out a lot. And please leave a comment below. I read every single one, and your feedback means the world to me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.